Dr. William Gartner is a leading authority on new venture development. He's been listed as the most cited author in Entrepreneurship Journal articles and is a professor at the USC Lloyd Greif Center for Entrepreneurial Studies. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Gartner. Good to have you with us today. Well, you were one of the principal researchers for the study of minorities more likely than whites to start businesses.
Yeah, I'll give you a little background on the study. It's called the Panel Study of Entrepreneurial Dynamics. We spent $2 million to actually interview 64,622 individuals to find out how many of those people were starting businesses. And what we found is that minorities, both blacks and Hispanics, were starting businesses at significantly higher rates than whites.
That's kind of astounding.
Yes, for example, I think probably the most astounding finding was that African-American men with graduate degrees were likely to start businesses at rates of 27 per 100, which was about double the rate of whites with graduate degrees. And what we found in general was that education was the most important driver of opportunities for both blacks, Hispanics, and whites.
Oh, I see. Very interesting. Can you give us a comparison between the number of minority startups today as compared to, say, 40 years ago?
Well, in general, rates of entrepreneurship have increased 3 times more than they have in the 60s. But I think one of the things to emphasize is that African Americans, for example, have always been a very entrepreneurial population in the United States.
I think that's something a lot of people haven't understood.
Yeah, there has always been a very, very strong entrepreneurial class, and actually it was only in the 60s, surprisingly, because of desegregation, that the black entrepreneurial class declined for probably about 15 years, but has really been on the rise. And what we're seeing again is that African Americans and Hispanics are starting businesses at rates that are quite surprising, basically about 20 out of every 100.
Now, Dr. Gartner, what did you find was the most common process for new entrepreneurs when they start out in their businesses?
Actually, the most important thing is to actually do it. Yeah. When we talk about entrepreneurs, we think of them as dreamers who do. And entrepreneurs are those individuals who actually undertake any kind of activity. So it really doesn't matter. For example, one of the things that I think most people find surprising is that in our survey group, the average amount invested in starting a business in the United States, no matter who one is $500.
$500?
$500, that little. And actually for a high-growth firm or a high-technology firm, the average amount invested is $25,000. So when we see all of these businesses that were started for millions of dollars, those are really an aberration and very rare. Most people get into business for very little money. It's the doing of it. It's talking to customers. It's doing a business plan. It's really working on the operations of your business. It's doing, not necessarily dreaming. Okay,
now is there one industry that was more heavily concentrated in than others, perhaps?
No, what we're finding is that entrepreneurship is occurring in all sectors of our economy. You can't really name an industry where there aren't some kind of startups. For example, even in automobiles, there are 3 automobile startups here in Los Angeles.
Right here in LA?
Yes, that's right. They're not making lots of cars, but they are making automobiles.
Now, your suggestion is to manage your risk before venturing out into your business. How do you do that? That sounds simple, but it can't be.
Well, actually, we have a thing called failing forward, I think, is our motto, where, for the most part, you learn from your failures. And so one of the things I think that entrepreneurs need to do is start small and try things and think of what you do as an experiment and see whether it works or not. So every time you make a phone call to find a new customer, you're testing out whether that's going to work or not. Every time you come up with a new product, you're testing out whether that's going to work or not. So it's learning from your mistakes, actually, and learning from what you're trying to do.
A question that evolves simply from fascination with the subject. Today's show is about the billion-dollar club, so to speak. What do you see in the future for minority entrepreneurs and the possibility of reaching that kind of lofty status?
I think we'll see lots more minority entrepreneurs become billionaires. Our society is very entrepreneurial. There is plenty of opportunities. I think right now there's a lull in the economy, but we should see, I think, things pick up. Entrepreneurs are always hopeful, and as long as people are willing to take initiative, they'll be quite successful.
And if there's any place that they'll probably do it, it's here in Southern California, which I understand is a hotbed of entrepreneurship.
This is one of the more entrepreneurial places in the United States, if not the world.
Okay. Dr. Gartner, thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Pleasure to have you with us here on Making It. And we'll tell you how to get in contact with Dr. William Gartner of USC right after this. Stay with us.